Welcome to Spooky Moments, the channel where darkness descends and tales of terror unfold. Prepare yourself for a bone-chilling journey as we delve into the twisted realm of 3 horrifying stories about driving at night gone horribly wrong. Buckle up, because the terrors that await on these haunted roads will leave you gripping the edge of your seat. I had always enjoyed the solitude of driving at night. The empty roads stretched before me like a dark canvas, and the hum of the engine provided a soothing soundtrack. But that night, something felt different. It started as a subtle unease, like a whisper of unease at the back of my mind. I was on my way back from a late-night party, taking the familiar winding road that cut through the dense forest. The trees loomed ominously, their branches reaching out like gnarled fingers. The only source of light was my headlights, casting eerie shadows that danced across the road. As I drove deeper into the woods, an eerie stillness settled in. There were no signs of life, no other cars passing by. It was as if the world had fallen into a slumber, leaving me alone in this eerie, desolate place. My grip on the steering wheel tightened as a sense of foreboding crept over me. A thick fog began to descend, swallowing the road ahead. My visibility was reduced to a few meters, and I had to slow down to a crawl. Every now and then, glimpses of figures appeared in the mist, their ethereal forms flickering in and out of sight. It sent shivers down my spine, but I dismissed it as a trick of the imagination. Suddenly, my headlights illuminated a figure standing in the middle of the road. I slammed on the brakes, my heart pounding in my chest. It was a woman, her long, tangled hair obscuring her face. She wore a tattered, blood-stained dress, and her eyes gleamed with an unnatural intensity. I rolled down the window, my voice trembling as I called out to her. "Are you okay? Do you need help?" Silence hung in the air, and the woman slowly turned her head toward me. Her face was twisted into a malevolent smile, revealing rows of sharp, jagged teeth. Terror seized me, and I frantically pressed the accelerator, swerving past her. As I sped away, my mind raced with questions. Who was that woman? What did she want? The fog grew thicker, swallowing the road and leaving me disoriented. I tried to consult my GPS, but the signal was lost in this forsaken place. The road seemed to stretch on endlessly, leading me deeper into the heart of darkness. Panic welled up inside me, my breath coming in short gasps. I desperately searched for signs of civilization, any glimpse of a familiar landmark, but there was nothing but the oppressive darkness and the twisted silhouettes of trees. Suddenly, my headlights flickered and died, plunging me into pitch-black darkness. Fear consumed me, and I fumbled for my phone, hoping to find some semblance of light. But the screen remained lifeless, as if drained of all power. I was trapped in this nightmare, surrounded by an impenetrable darkness. Every rustle of leaves, every whisper of the wind sent shivers down my spine. I could feel eyes watching me from the shadows, unseen creatures lurking just out of sight. Hours passed, but it felt like an eternity. Exhaustion and terror threatened to consume me. Just when I thought all hope was lost, a faint glow appeared in the distance. It was the faint flicker of a streetlight, a beacon of salvation in the abyss. I stumbled out of the car, my legs weak and trembling. As I approached the light, a sense of relief washed over me. But the relief was short-lived when I realized I had arrived at the exact spot where I had encountered the woman on the road. I turned around, and there she stood, her malevolent smile etched upon her face. Her bloodshot eyes bore into mine, paralyzing me with fear. At that moment, I knew there was no escape. The next morning, my abandoned car was discovered by a search party. They found no trace of me, just an empty shell left behind in the heart of the forest. They never uncovered the truth of what happened that night, but the legend of the haunted road grew, warning others to stay away from the darkness that consumed me. To this day, my soul remains trapped in that forsaken place, forever lost in the night. I pulled my jacket tighter around me as I stepped out into the chilly night air. The sky was shrouded in darkness, save for a few scattered stars. I glanced at my watch. It was already past midnight, and I had a long drive ahead of me. The thought of navigating the desolate, winding roads at this hour made a shiver run down my spine, but I had no choice. I had to get home. I climbed into my car, the engine purring to life. The headlights sliced through the blackness, illuminating a narrow strip of road ahead. As I merged onto the empty highway, a feeling of unease settled over me. It was as if the night itself held secrets, lurking just beyond my field of vision. The road stretched on endlessly, surrounded by an impenetrable darkness. My grip on the steering wheel tightened, and I kept my eyes fixed on the illuminated path ahead. The rhythmic hum of the tires on the pavement provided a false sense of security, but deep down, I knew I was not alone. The eerie stillness was shattered by the sudden appearance of a figure by the side of the road. My heart skipped a beat as I swerved to avoid hitting them. My hands trembled as I glanced in the rearview mirror, but the figure had vanished, leaving no trace of its existence. Shaken, I continued driving, my senses heightened. Each passing mile seemed to draw me further into the clutches of the night. Strange whispers filled the car, their origin impossible to discern. Shadows danced at the edges of my vision, teasing me with their ethereal presence. My eyes grew heavy, the monotony of the road lulling me into a dangerous drowsiness. I fought to keep my focus, knowing that succumbing to sleep would be a fatal mistake. But as fatigue gnawed at my consciousness, I couldn't help but wonder if the shadows were luring me into a trap. Suddenly, the headlights illuminated a figure standing in the middle of the road. My heart raced as I slammed on the brakes, the screeching tires piercing the silence of the night. The figure, a pale, emaciated woman, stared at me with vacant eyes. A chill ran down my spine as I recognized her face. It was the same woman I had narrowly avoided earlier. Fear coursed through my veins as I fumbled for my phone, desperate to call for help. But as I looked up, she was gone, leaving behind only the haunting echo of her presence. I blinked, questioning my sanity, but there was no denying what I had seen. The car's engine sputtered, and the headlights flickered, plunging me into darkness. Panic welled up inside me as I tried to restart the engine, but it refused to cooperate. I was stranded in the middle of nowhere, vulnerable to whatever horrors lurked in the night. I stepped out of the car, the cold wind biting at my skin. The moon cast an eerie glow over the desolate landscape. The sound of distant footsteps echoed through the stillness, growing louder with each passing second. My heart pounded in my chest as I turned, dreading what I would see. There, emerging from the darkness, was a horde of shadowy figures. Their eyes glowed with an otherworldly light, fixated on me with malicious intent. I stumbled backward, my mind screaming for escape, but my body paralyzed with fear. Their whispers filled the air, their voices a cacophony of torment and despair. They reached out with skeletal hands, inching closer with each passing moment. I closed my eyes, preparing for the inevitable, my fate sealed in the clutches of the night. But just as their icy fingers grazed my skin, a blinding light pierced through the darkness. I opened my eyes to see a car approaching, its headlights illuminating the nightmare that surrounded me. The figures vanished into thin air, leaving no trace of their existence. The driver, a kind-hearted stranger, offered me a ride to safety. I climbed into the car, trembling with gratitude and disbelief. As we drove away, I glanced back at the desolate road, now empty and devoid of any supernatural presence. To this day, I can't explain what I encountered that night, or the true nature of the shadowy figures, but I will forever be haunted by the memory of that drive. A journey that took me to the brink of terror and showed me the chilling depths that exist beyond the veil of darkness. The engine hummed softly as I turned the key in the ignition, preparing myself for the long drive ahead. It was a moonless night, with darkness enveloping the roads like a thick, suffocating blanket. But I had no choice. I needed to reach my destination before dawn. As I merged onto the desolate highway, the faint glow of my headlights pierced through the blackness, offering me a narrow view of the road ahead. The only company I had was the haunting silence, broken only by the occasional rustle of wind through the trees. Minutes turned into hours, and a sense of unease began to settle in. The monotony of the road combined with the eerie darkness weighed heavily on my mind. Shadows seemed to dance at the edge of my vision, teasing and taunting me. I tried to shake off the creeping sense of dread, reminding myself it was just my imagination running wild. But then, a flicker of movement caught my attention in the rearview mirror. My heart skipped a beat as I glanced back, but there was nothing there. Just the empty road trailing off into the abyss. I dismissed it as a trick of the light, my nerves playing tricks on me. As I continued my journey, the road seemed to stretch endlessly, winding through thick forests and deserted fields. The atmosphere grew heavier, suffocating me with its oppressive presence. My fingers clenched the steering wheel, my knuckles turning white as I fought to maintain control. Then out of nowhere, a dense fog materialized, swallowing the road ahead. Panic welled up inside me, but I couldn't turn back now. I had to keep going, hoping that the fog would dissipate and reveal a safer path. But the fog persisted, thickening and swirling around me like a sinister veil. It obscured my vision, reducing my headlights' reach to a mere few feet. The road became treacherous and unknown, each turn a gamble in the blinding mist. My heart pounded in my chest as I strained to make out any signs of life, any indication that I was not alone. And that's when I heard it. A faint, unearthly whisper, carried in the wind. My blood ran cold as the words slowly formed in my mind, chilling me to the bone. "Turn back," the voice whispered, filled with a malevolence I couldn't ignore. "You're not welcome here." Fear consumed me, but I refused to surrender to the darkness. I pressed on, my hands gripping the wheel with a determination bordering on madness. The whispering grew louder, more insistent, as if the very air itself was warning me of the impending danger. Suddenly, a figure appeared in the middle of the road, a silhouette barely visible through the thick fog. I slammed on the brakes, my heart in my throat, but it was too late. The car skidded, tires screeching, as I careened towards the shape. A bone-chilling scream pierced the air as my car collided with the figure, sending it flying into the darkness. The impact jolted me, shaking me to my core, as I fought to regain control of the vehicle. My heart pounded, a crescendo of terror in my ears. As the fog slowly lifted, revealing the aftermath of the collision, my hands trembled uncontrollably. There, lying motionless on the road, was a shattered mirror, a reflection of myself. The realization struck me like a bolt of lightning. I had collided with my own fear, my own demons. Trembling, I stumbled out of the car, my eyes scanning the desolate surroundings. The road stretched ahead, as desolate and foreboding as ever. There was no trace of the figure I had seen, no evidence of the collision. It was as if it had never happened. I shuddered, overcome with a profound sense of unease. The road had played tricks on my mind, taunting me with my deepest fears. It had shown me the darkness that lurked within, the darkness that could consume me if I let it. With a heavy heart, I got back in the car, the engine purring to life. But this time, I drove with a newfound caution, my eyes scanning the road for any signs of danger. I had come face to face with my own darkness, and it had changed me forever. As the first rays of dawn broke through the horizon, casting a warm glow upon the road, I heaved a sigh of relief. I had survived the night, the journey through the abyss of my own fears, and as I drove towards the light, I vowed to never forget the power of the darkness that lurked within us all.